Hello, I'm Dr. Bonny Gifford, Superintendent of the Dartmouth Public Schools, here again with our show, Dartmouth's Got Talent. I hope you get to see our first episode, but if not, you'll pick up now with today's episode. So this is our second episode of this show, and as I said the last time, we've really developed this as a way to bring what is happening in our schools to the community and give everybody a real sense of the wonderful programs, the talented teachers, and our great students that we have here in the school. So today's episode, we're talking about literacy, and I have with me Mrs. Lori O'Neill and Miss Karen Babbitt, two of our literacy specialists in our schools. Miss Babbitt is from the middle school, and Miss O'Neill is working this year at Cushman, having worked at Potter previously. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks
Glad
so
to
much.
be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining me. So to start off, I'd like if each of you could just give our folks at home a little, a description of your background, your experience, how long you've been in Dartmouth, and then we'll talk really about what does a literacy specialist do. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
So this is my 5th year in Dartmouth. Prior to this, I worked in Fall River for many years. About 18 to 20 years,
Oh.
I'm not really sure. I was a kindergarten teacher
Okay.
for about 14 years, and then I became a reading recovery teacher. And after that, I was a literacy coach in Fall River, and then came over as a literacy coach in Dartmouth.
Okay.
And like you said, I was working 4 years at Potter, and just recently this year came to the early childhood school, Cushman.
Okay. What made you switch schools?
Well, a lot of my background was in the early childhood. So what happened was I was a kindergarten teacher,
Yeah.
and then what happens is, well, Lori, why don't you teach that one, or why don't you take that one? So it seemed like more and more of my experience was
Right.
with the younger students. So I thought this was a great opportunity
Good.
to do a lot more of that.
So it was a natural,
Yeah.
switch.
Right.
Yeah. And do you have children coming to the system?
I do. I have one child. She went to Cushman.
Okay.
And from preschool and kindergarten as well. And then she has just transitioned into DeMello, and she loves it. She loved Cushman, and she loves DeMello. It's a
Good.
great community. And we actually moved here a few years ago
Okay.
when I just started in Dartmouth. So
great.
yeah, we all love it.
Good. Perfect. And you?
Well, I've been teaching in Dartmouth for about 22 years.
okay.
I was at Gidley School with Dr. Karafotis and Dr. Smith when I started my career, and I taught 4th and 5th and 1st and 2nd, and I had the opportunity to loop with one class from 4th to 5th and another time from 1st to 2nd. Then I went to Quinn, and while I was there about 7 years ago, Mrs. Granda asked if I would consider applying for the literacy coach position. So I was a literacy coach at Quinn for 3 years. This is my 4th year at the middle school,
Okay.
and my first year leaving elementary, I split my time between the middle school and the high school.
Okay. That was a big shift then.
It is a big
Yeah.
shift, and it's kind of it's an interesting group, like 6th to 8th. There's a lot of things happen socially, physically, emotionally.
Right.
But it's a fabulous time to be working with kids.
Right. I know I was a middle school teacher and a high school teacher and then a middle school principal, and when I left middle school, I loved it. I loved the kids, and then when I went to the high school, I went, what was I thinking? Those middle school, they're a challenge but fun. Right?
Really fun.
Right. So I know you've both just mentioned things about reading recovery, literacy coach, literacy specialist. I think we need to explain to people watching really what does that mean. We've seen a lot of shifts in how we instruct as far as reading instruction goes, whether it's small group instruction, large group. We've all done the phonics, the not phonics. So kind of, explain where we've gone with literacy, and then really what do you do as literacy coaches?
Would you like me to start with what we do as a literacy coach?
Yeah, that's sure.
So coaching, usually we would be in the classroom a great deal of time, working directly with students, with teachers. It could be a one-on-one situation where you're working with teachers, or even in a grade level team.
Okay.
We also look at data a lot. We look at data with administrators and teachers, and we analyze that, and we really decide next steps with that. How does that impact our instruction? So that's a big part of what we do. We're part of study groups. And also we provide a lot of professional development within the district. So it could be a district PD where the initiative is really set by the Office of Instruction or the Curriculum Office. We really want you to design something along these lines.
Right.
So we would research that and design that, the whole group of coaches. There are other coaches as well in
Right.
all of the schools. And we would work together on that, bring it back, tweak it, and then finally bring that out to all of the schools so that they receive the exact same message really at the same time. We might meet around the time, like on an early release day, by grade level. And so
Okay.
there's some tweaks by the
Sure.
grade level,
Sure.
but for the most part, it's the same message. Or it could be a building-based PD where it's really designed on what your building needs and where
Right.
you're going.
Right. Right.
So those are the two different kinds of professional development. Did I leave anything else out?
Yeah, ours is, it's a very similar model, but because there's only one middle school, we can kind of structure our professional development around our school improvement plan, which is based on the district improvement plan. So I have kind of three roles, and I think Lori alluded to this. One is working with teachers one-on-one, either our brand new teachers, mentoring them, or teachers who just have a question about their practice, and I'll be in their classrooms occasionally. The middle school model doesn't have me in classes quite as often. I am in every curriculum planning time, our CPT meetings, so I meet with every group of teachers at least once in a 6-day cycle. And then, like the elementary coaches, we do after-school curriculum meetings that Carl Robidoux, who's our assistant
Right.
principal, Ann Brown, who's our math coach, and I kind of, under Carl's guidance, we figure out what the next step is that we'd
Right.
like to teach teachers. And then a big part of it is our data collection and analysis. So we're still creating what we call the big data. So that means we try to get a bunch of numbers, any available objective number that we can about our students, and we build it over time. So now our 8th grade big data, we have 5th grade MCAS, 6th grade MCAS, 7th grade STAR.
Right.
So, and we can color code all of that and kind of look at that globally and say, who's in need of some extension and who's in need of some remediation. And now at the middle school, we do have a reading specialist and we have an ELA lab that's tiered. So we have 2 places where we can put students who need some additional help.
Right. And just again, for folks at home, when we talk about tiered, that's what's coming out of that data talk
Exactly.
is a tiered instruction where levels of support that we give kids. So
Exactly, and the
you're-
data team makes those decisions.
Right.
So we'll meet once in a 6-day cycle with the guidance counselors and Sarah, who's our dean of students, and the other principals, and talk specifically about children. What can we do to best support this kid?
Right, right. And I'll ask both of you, when you come up with some ideas, how does that roll out in the classroom? I guess basically, what does literacy look like in the classroom, whether it's through core instruction or some of the tiered support that you're offering?
Well, we were lucky enough at the middle school 3 years ago to get a new anthology series. It's Holt, and it was based on the Common Core.
Okay.
So as we were talking about shifting to the new standards, we had these materials that would help us with that. And along with that, there are some tiered pieces. So an adaptive interactive reader that's 3 years below grade level, an interactive reader. So our goal is to have students with more time, eyes on print, that while they're reading, they're active readers. So we teach them how to annotate, and we teach that in a very specific way. What does that look like in a consumable text? What does it look like in a non-consumable text? And then we work across the curriculum in every subject area on close reading and text-based writing. And we can divvy up the writing standards so that ELA wholly owns narrative and has argument and informative. But our social studies and science teachers also get informative and argument.
Okay.
And so we have kind of a structure and a graphic organizer for that. So in our school, the whole focus is on kids doing more reading, more on their own, higher text complexity, really being able to read and analyze and synthesize what they've read. In addition to that, because there just isn't enough time in the school day for
Right.
kids to read
Right.
what they need to read, we have a very rigorous independent reading program where teachers implement that in a different way in each classroom, but our mantra is every kid needs to have a just right book in their hands every minute. You just never know when you have 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 10
Right.
minutes or read on the bus on the way home. And so our librarian and our reading specialists work really hard at putting the right book in the right kid's hand at the right time.
Right. And we don't care what it is, as long as they're engaged and interested.
Graphic
and they're
novels
loving
are
it,
fine
right?
with us. Yep,
Yeah.
magazines are fine
right,
with us.
Right, it's terrific. How about at the elementary? Does it look different?
There are some similarities. At the elementary school, we've been spending a lot of time in the last few years on comprehension strategies, which you're talking about in close reading. So they're directly taught exactly what to do. So we teach them that, readers think all the time. So pay
Right.
attention to that voice in your head. Sometimes it's questioning, sometimes it's telling you you've lost your way and you don't understand what you've read, and what do you do to fix that up. We'll teach strategies about fixing that up. We also annotate the text, if it's a text that we can annotate, or we'll use Post-its. So we teach them to write down their own thinking. It could be a question, it could be an aha, I didn't know that, or what's going on here. But not just a copy of the text.
Right.
So long gone are the days of coloring the text with marker or highlighter that mean nothing.
Right.
So we actually teach them in a lesson. That's just, we call that painting. So we're not doing that anymore. We're
Right.
just, if you have something to say, it needs to be in your own words, and I'm sure you do that as well.
Yeah, we
It has
do.
to be your own words, and then it really becomes a talking point, because a big part of it is talking to other readers. Readers talk to other readers as well, and so they can bring that piece with them, their notes with them, and they can all talk about what they thought was important, and hopefully comment on the others' thinking as well.
Right, right. I'm glad you talked about that, because having been in a few classrooms where same thing I've heard the kids say, and I get so excited when I hear them say, well, we know this because of the book and what the author said, the evidence from the text. So I'm so happy that it's,
Like they can say, look right here on page such and
Exactly.
such.
Exactly. It's not just coming out of their heads and whatever. But so you both talked about a lot about reading, and we know there's a big reading writing connection. So how do you, I guess, work with teachers that are not traditionally, maybe math, for example, or let's say even a PE department, phys ed department, are not used to or having been asked to do some writing in their classrooms, or so how do you promote that in the buildings with teachers that, again, they're traditionally not really expected to do that?
Sure. Well, mostly I find that going in there and really modeling with the teacher and showing them, this is where I'm getting the information
Right.
from. Here's how I learned it. And let's try this, and then we'll watch the students. So I think that really empowers teachers who are really a little bit uncomfortable. Sometimes teachers are pretty comfortable and they want to work on that next level, with another person. Really, a coach is just a partner to teach with them, and someone to talk about, and someone to notice what the kids are doing, what they're taking on, and what we can tweak and change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that really, it's our instruction that matters, and that's what's really creating powerful shifts with kids. And so it's fun to do that with another teacher. It's
Right.
I think that it runs the gamut with teachers. Sometimes people feel a little bit unsure about that, but we've been spending a lot of time on writing over the years, and I think that people are much more comfortable with that. We use a writer's workshop in the elementary schools. I'm not really sure. Do they use a writer's workshop in the middle?
We don't call it
Okay.
that,
I was
but it's
going to
it's the
ask you to
same type of
explain what
thing.
you mean by that
Sure.
too, and maybe there's two different models. Or,
Well,
Yeah.
In the elementary, it's a teaching method where the teacher is pulling everyone together and really teaching the next step in terms of writing for all writers, really, what they think would be a powerful move for most writers. So they're teaching strategies and skills right up close, usually in the meeting area or on the rug, where students get a demonstration on what that looks like. If we're talking about writing,
Right.
within their own writing, a mentor text would probably be shared. This is what it would look like in your writing, and then they would get a chance to really share that right there on the rug, so that it sets them up for success when they move on and try that in their own writing.
Yeah.
At that time, the teacher is moving around the classroom and working, conferencing with students, and really collecting some information, how the kids are taking that on. If they do understand it, she might give another mid-workshop teaching point at that point, remind everybody what they're doing,
Right.
especially with our youngest writers. This is what we're doing, notice what so-and-so did, and you can do that too. How's it going? Okay, everybody back to work. And then when they bring them back up, it's really a third time to talk about that same teaching point. So she'll share a piece that highlighted that move that we made that day, and then really hope that everyone else really takes that on.
Sure.
So that's what workshop means in the younger grades. I would assume that they have a large working time as well.
Yeah, we don't term it writing workshop, but we have been able to talk to all our teachers, including social studies and science teachers, about what does quality text-based writing look like? So when we gather around the table in our CPT room, people bring samples of their work. We calibrate the work using a standard rubric and standard anchor papers. Then we'll score together and decide what's that glow and a grow for each child based on what's the one thing that we see that they solidly own, what's something that we think would be the next progression in terms of their writing that they need to work on. And then this year, our teachers are recording that data. They're recording what they want the kids to work on. Kids are self-assessing.
Oh,
and
great.
And we're getting to the point that they're self-assessing, goal setting in order for us to be able to have our target for conferencing. So we're pushing people to come up with systems for conferencing that they're comfortable with and that can move the kids along. So that's where we are. We started this about 4 years ago and had all the special area teachers give the same prompt, and then we worked together to score all 950 of them.
Right.
So everyone was familiar with what are the expectations and what are our kids able to do right now. And we've made a lot of great progress with that. We can see our kids' work shifting from kind of like on an average of a 2, like generally getting the point. A 3 is something that's more specific, that that definitely is proficient and meeting grade level standards. And a 4 would be that like super sparkly piece that just jumps out at the quality of the writing and the specificity of the examples. So more of our kids are in the 3 category now. So we're starting to score with fractions, or Anne would correct me and say with decimals. So we're doing a 3.5 or a 4.5 so that we can start to say to kids, well, this is where you are with this next goal. This is where we think that you will be.
All of that sounds so terrific, because my head is spinning with, the professional development that's going on with these meetings with the teachers. Obviously you're building capacity, the whole data team, everybody, and it's across the whole school.
Right.
And then the idea of, we hear a lot about Common Core, and people are so confused about that, but it sounds like the instructional strategies that have shifted in our classrooms have really paid off. What you're just talking about,
I
that
think
shift
they
is
have.
tremendous.
I think the most incredible shift from the old Massachusetts reading standards to the Common Core requires kids to do more reading independently, but thinking about it and being able to use that information. So Lucy Calkins, in her Pathways to the Common Core, would say, in the past, our kids were kind of plot junkies. We would rush them through books and say, who's the character?
Yes.
Like, what's the setting? What are the plot events? Now we'll say,
Right.
how does the setting affect the characters? And how can you prove that using the text?
Right.
So it's not just, it says right there that Cinderella's dress is blue. It's why did the author make those decisions? So it really is, you need to read something to analyze explicitly what the text says. That would be standard 1, and then inferentially. But then can you use that information to talk about craft and structure?
Right.
It's been a great shift.
And to be able to then be critical readers of anything, right? I mean, that's the goal throughout life, for them to be lifelong critical readers.
Yeah, they need to say, who wrote this?
Right.
Why? What are they trying
Do
to
I
convince
believe
me
it?
of?
Yeah,
Exactly. Is it
exactly.
a credible source?
Right. That's terrific. So you've been doing all this work, both having great success. We're having good success. We actually just kind of did a quick review of the MCAS data, which I never hang my hat on that kind of data at all. Obviously, we know there are fabulous things going on in our schools, but the literacy pieces look pretty good. So we're obviously making some really good progress. What are your goals for this year? Have you established some specific goals?
Well, I don't know if we'd mentioned that there's a vertical team
yeah.
that has been established in Dartmouth, and so it consists of team members from pre-K really to 12th grade. And so we're really hoping, the intention is to bridge that gap so that we know what everybody is doing. And so in our last meetings, we were just talking, we really took a look at student work. And so in terms of opinion writing, I think it was the one that we did, or informational writing, we took a piece of kindergarten and then first grade, or stack really, and just really took a look at that and matched that up to the Common Core. So it's one thing to just read the Common Core and say, you're supposed to do this and this and this. And a lot of people think, what does that mean?
Exactly.
So we're trying to create really this stack of examples
Yes.
of what it looks
Yeah.
like, what it
Right,
looks like in
right.
kindergarten. So we're really searching for pieces that not only meet the standards, but sometimes exceed it, so that we can really show that to teachers. And
Sure.
many of us, the three of us, I think, are on the
Writing
Writing
Standards.
Standards and Action Project, which is from DISI,
Right.
and they're doing that same exact work, but it's on the state level. So we're collecting those pieces and really analyzing. And sometimes a piece, it takes a year to really, be
Sure.
accepted, and we're annotating that, and it's online. And they have a few pieces online right now. So we're hoping to really bring that work back into Dartmouth, so that teachers can be
Yeah, that
part of that
work
work
is-
as well.
that's
Because
great work.
being a part of that is really
I
where the-
really like that.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
really great committee.
Yeah.
It's a long drive. It's in Fitchburg.
Sure.
It's about 5 times a year.
Sure.
Yeah.
But we have 6 pieces of writing from Dartmouth Middle School kids that are in the pipeline right now, that the annotation will be written.
Yeah.
And all of us sit around and look at student work, and we need to say that this is an exemplary piece.
Right.
So I was really proud of the fact that so many of our pieces were chosen. They're not up on the website yet because it does take almost
Yeah.
a year
Right.
to go
Get it just
from
right.
saying yes to actually having it all color-coded and aligned with the standards. But something to look for at the DESI
That'll be
website.
terrific. Yeah, we want to be exemplars.
Right?
So I want to ask you both, and I believe I heard you both say you started in the classroom as teachers, and then you've shifted to coach. What were some of the challenges? I'm sure there were some when you did that.
Sure.
I mean, you're going
it's
from your
missing
own
that
ball.
classroom. I
Yeah.
think that missing that
Yeah.
connection with your own classroom can be hard. You miss that, and
Yeah.
but it's challenging work, and I think that in time, I had a little bit of time in Fall River before I came over to get
Right.
used to that. But at first, I would think that the biggest challenge would have been really missing that connection to your own group
Your
of
own
parents
students,
each year,
yeah. Right.
your own students each year, and really,
Yeah.
sometimes it can
Yeah.
be lonely.
Yeah,
But
sure.
it's fun to work with teachers as well. I think that they really need somebody to work with. It's fun to have somebody in your classroom, and it's exciting to work on that, and to have somebody else to share, an adult to share that with
Right.
at the time, while it's
Yes,
happening.
yes.
So I think that I've had a lot of success with working with
Right.
teachers as well. So
Good,
it's
good.
been a nice shift.
Good.
I think the hardest thing was leaving your own classroom because you
Same
fall
thing.
in love with those 25 kids and their families.
Every year.
Yeah.
Every time.
Right.
And Mrs. Granda said, why don't you give it a try? And we'll see if it's a good fit for you. And she encouraged me to take the literacy coach position because you can touch more people that way. And it is an adjustment, but I love what I do. And when you have the opportunity to work with fabulous administrators, and Ann Brown and I share an office and work closely together. She's our math coach.
Right.
In addition to working with all the regular ed teachers, the special educators, our librarian, we have a literacy committee, so we meet once in a 6-day cycle to talk about the things that we want to do to promote literacy
Right.
as a building, and there are 4 of us on that committee. So there's a lot of really exciting people to talk to and to think with, to say, okay, so if this is where we are, what's our next step?
Yeah.
And it feels like teaching is teaching,
Right.
kind of regardless. Like you certainly wouldn't like grab a grown-up by the chin and say, eyes on me. But it is the same thing.
Same
You meet
thing.
people where they are,
That's
and
right.
you encourage them to think about what the next step could be.
Right. And when they see the good results that are happening, they're just as more quickly to jump on board and say, hey, that's good stuff. Let me get involved. So I know that the middle school is got a fair coming up, or a literacy night,
we
if
do.
you
This
will.
is our very first
So-
family literacy night. So it will be November 3rd
Yep.
in the Dartmouth Middle School Library, and there are 3 components to it. We're asking students and their families to come for one part or all parts. At 6 o'clock, we have the Taylor Swift Scholastic video, which is about a half an hour, and we'll be selling popcorn and having some beverages during that period of time. And then right in the library as well at 6:30, we'll have Kathy Souza Ponce, who's one of our ELA extraordinarily talented teachers, reading her book, which is August Skies, which was actually illustrated by Hannah Robidoux. So they'll be doing a read aloud, answering questions, and signing and selling some of their books. And then finally, we'll wrap it up with creativity in the library. We have all kinds of fun things for kids to do. Actually, I think the Lego wall is being installed as we speak. But we have a tuck tape area, we have green screens, we have Sphero. So from 7 to 7:30, we'll have kids showing their families the creative things that can happen in the library, which is the heart of our building. And the book fair will be going the whole time.
Right, and of course, all the schools always have book fairs. I mean, that's
We
our
have 3 a
PTO
year, yeah.
helps us with those, et cetera.
And
So
it's actually voting day in Dartmouth, so people who
Okay.
have to vote next door at the town hall,
Okay.
they could probably stop
Stop
in
in.
and visit us for
that'd
a
be
part
cool.
of that.
Good. Well, good. Well, anything else that I haven't asked you? We're coming to a close. I tell you, this half hour goes really fast.
Zips right by.
It does, but again, you know, our focus in Dartmouth, of course, will continue to be on literacy across all the disciplines, and folks like you, we need you to keep your enthusiasm up so we can continue to put good books into the hands of our kids and really continue to help them explore and be creative and imaginative. So I want to thank you for coming today. And
Thank you.
oh, absolutely. And if we have any other future projects coming up with literacy, we'll be sure to bring you back. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to thank my guests today, Lori O'Neill and Karen Babbitt, both of them literacy specialists in our district. And I hope you've learned something about the wonderful things that are happening in the Dartmouth Public Schools. Until the next time, have a good day.